Welcome back to LG Locks. I'm Grayson, standing in for Grayson with Larry. We're sitting down to talk some college and NFL this weekend. We picked the 5 games that we thought were the biggest ones. We're going to do our best to give you some good picks with those games. We're going to start in college, and we're going to start with two 3-0 teams at noon. It's Duke and it's Kansas in a sold-out Lawrence Stadium that's sure to be about as rowdy as maybe even a Kansas basketball game. What are you liking there, Larry?
Honestly, I think game day should be there, but I
Oh, I agree.
I'm I'm with Kansas taking the spread on FanDuel right now. It's at 7.5, but they haven't given up a sack this year. Jalen Daniels is going to be the best athlete on the field. I mean, he's just a dog. He ran through us in WVU. Um, the only knock on Kansas is they give up like 70% of completions both to WVU and Houston. So Duke's offense could possibly take that next step in their passing game, but I just don't really see it happening. Duke beat Northwestern, who beat Scott Frost. Who cares about that? And they lost. They just lost to Southern Illinois. So I think taking Kansas in the points here is the move.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the resumes through 3 weeks. Kansas went to Houston, won. Unfortunately, went to your Mountaineers and won as well. So, I mean, this team is not a usual contender for Big 12 road wins, but with Lance Leipold, it's pretty much a reversal. We saw him going to Texas win last year. So, I think you're right about Jalen Daniels. He's almost more dangerous on the ground than he is through the air. He has 3 passing TDs his last 2 games. Those are both on the road against much better teams than Duke, and now they're coming home in front of, like I mentioned, electric environment. These players are going to be ready. I think they realize that even though they've already gone over their win total this year, they've got a lot more in store. And with Big 12 play coming up, it's not going to get any easier. So games like this, if they want to sneak into a bowl game potentially down the road, they're going to have, especially at home. One thing I noticed on third down on offense, Kansas 67%, Duke 26%. You don't win road games getting one out of every 4 third downs. And I think Kansas can force enough to get the ball back and get some extra possessions there. So I'm also going to lay the 7.5, whatever you can get. I think it'll be closer to 2 touchdowns than one. So I'm comfortable if you catch the hook at 7.5 or not. Another one where game day is, but probably shouldn't be. It's Florida and Tennessee, the 3:30 CBS game. Guest picker on game day. I've never heard of. It's a female member of the WWE universe, apparently. So swing and a miss there, honestly. so many options there with the alumni that Tennessee has, and they went that route. So hopefully better than Jack Harlow, but probably not going to be better than Luke Combs.
Right.
I just if you tell me which Anthony Richardson we get, I can tell you who wins the game. Because if
100%.
we get the one from the swamp in week 1 against Utah, then give me the Gators at whatever the money line is, 3-1. I'll take the 11, 10 points too. But the 2 games since then, he's been atrocious. They needed a missed field goal to avoid overtime against South Florida last week. Will Levis came into the swamp and beat them pretty thoroughly. They were number 12 in the AP at that time, and they've dropped pretty considerably outside the top 20 now. So I don't know. I would take the points with Florida, I guess, but that's just hoping that, again, you get Utah, Anthony Richardson, because if not, I think Hendon Hooker and the Vols score as much as they want, and there won't be much answer from Florida, so it could get out of hand pretty quickly. What are you thinking there?
I'm with you. I think it depends on which Anthony Richardson shows up. Like you said, he looked amazing versus Utah. And since then he hasn't looked great. Their defense on third downs is the worst in the SEC right now, and kind of like we were saying in the Kansas Duke game, if you don't stop teams on third down, you're not going to win road games. Um, I would go opposite on this one and go. I would take Tennessee minus 10.5 if I have to choose one. Um, just because I in a hostile environment with that offense, I don't know if Florida can score enough points to keep it within that range. But if I wouldn't be shocked if the good Anthony Richardson shows up, it could be a very close game, and Florida could take money line. So, but I would take Tennessee minus 10.5, which right now, just based on how powered the Tennessee offense is.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the safer, definitely more consistent team. I mean, maybe not the schedule matching up great, but I mean,
Yeah.
to give them credit, we've seen teams drop games against teams like that. I mean, Arkansas just last week had a pretty big scare against Missouri State. So even in the SEC, they're not safe from the little guys. And speaking of that Arkansas team, they now head into Texas, not College Station. They're playing a Jerry World, but they will play Texas A&M. A&M is 2-point neutral site favorites. Who you liking in that one?
So I'm gonna take Arkansas money line on this one, uh, solely because I don't trust Texas A&M's offense. Kind of like where I was with Florida. Um, it's been mediocre at best. Arkansas's pass rush is insane. They lead the nation with 17 sacks. Their pass defense is not great. They've been giving up a lot of yards, but I feel if you get enough pressure on the quarterback, it can help with that. Also, the defining player for me would be Rocket Sanders. He's had 3 games over 100 yards. Then you add in the throwing and athleticism of KJ Jefferson. I just don't see Texas A&M being able to score enough points with Arkansas. So I would take Arkansas outright on this game.
We're going to be on opposite sides of both of these SEC games. I'm going to take the better defense, and I'm going to take them in their home state. It's not a true home game, obviously, but we just saw App State going to College Station and win. So, maybe 107,000 isn't the advantage we thought. But I just don't know if I trust this Arkansas team. Shaky win against South Carolina, some mistakes late, almost let them claw back into that one. They needed a big comeback to beat Missouri State last week. And the return of Bobby Petrino, which I guess could play into it a bit, but none of these kids were there during his time in Arkansas. So I don't know. A&M's ninth in scoring defense on the year. Obviously, if you want to put skill positions up next to each other, it's going to be heavily leaning toward Arkansas. KJ Jefferson probably still the better quarterback. A&M's gone to Max Johnson now, and they got a win last week, 17-9, which is about as ugly as it gets.
Yeah,
17 will not be enough tomorrow to win this game. I mean, it won't be. It'll have to be at least 24. I mean, there's too many talented guys in Arkansas, even if they do struggle away from home against the best defense they've played. Now A&M, only averaging 21 a game, including with Max. I mean, Max last year for LSU, that team averaged 26 points. It's going to have to be closer to that if they're going to come away with the win. And my line's minus 125, so I'm just going to take that. I don't have any interest in the 2 points, especially because this could come down to who has the ball last. And if that's the case, then I think I'm probably wrong on this one. But I'm going to lean on the better defense here. Hopefully Max Johnson clicking a little bit more. They did have 4 guys suspended last week for that Miami game. One of them's a receiver. They're all going to be back apparently. So whatever discipline issues Jimbo had, hopefully that's fixed for now. And one thing, it's not always a tried and true method, but I try and do it when I can. 69% of the public is on Arkansas, which I think deservedly so. Like you mentioned, better quarterback, stud running back. If you want to play a name game, it's absolutely Arkansas. But I'm hoping that the defense plays true here and can keep KJ Jefferson and Raheem contained enough to get the win. Moving to the ACC, Drake May and the 3-0 Tar Heels host Notre Dame. I mean, this is one that you feel like the pressure is all on Notre Dame because at this point they're fighting for a bowl bid. This is a team with New Year's Six aspirations that came crashing down pretty quick, losing to Marshall. The Ohio State loss didn't set off many alarm bells. I mean, that was a pretty huge spread, and they lost, I think, 21-10. So the offense immediately was going to be an issue, and that persisted. They beat Cal 24-17 last week, and now without Buchner still, that's going to be QB2 for the Irish, and I don't think they're going to go on the road and beat anybody. We've seen them struggle at home, dropping a game outright to Marshall, and then I think escape is pretty fair with Cal. And it's a freshman at quarterback, but he's at home. The Heels don't start 3-0 very often. They've had better quarterbacks come through, but I think when all is said and done, May might be right up there with them. So, give me the Heels.
I'm with you on this one. I would take UNC. I would just go money line. I have no interest in taking the 1.5, just where it's so close. I went back and forth all day when I was doing notes and looking into it. The only thing that scares me is UNC's defense. They're ranked 123rd total defense, and they haven't really. I don't remember their exact schedule. I don't have it pulled up, but they haven't played stud offenses. So that's a little makes me nervous for the game. But like you said, Notre Dame's offense has been abysmal. Even with Pine in the game last week, he only threw for 150 yards. He was a little more accurate, but it still is probably not enough to go into Chapel Hill and get a win. Like you said, they haven't been 3-0 in a while. So I think it's going to be kind of like a Kansas situation. They're going to be kind of an electric place. It might not be as sold out or anything, but I'm with UNC on this one, and I was back and forth all day.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to the crowd part, I was in the UNC student section when Clemson went there a couple years ago. That game was an absolute thriller that I didn't expect, and I was pretty terrified. I mean, those kids do put the books away and get loud when teams come to town. I think Notre Dame, even at 1-2, will get that out of them. And I will say this: a win by North Carolina would be in spite of Gene Chizik. I mean, the best offense they played is Chase Bryson, App State, who came in and put 40 on them the last 12 minutes of the game. So if you want a key to the win, it's going to be just outscore Gene Chizik's mistakes. But I think if it's any form of shootout, I'll take Drake May over Drew Pine every day of the week. So again, I'm going to side with the better quarterback getting I won't say better defense at home, but I think the students getting up and getting out for that game will help a lot. It's 3:30, so right in the middle of the day. But yeah, I'm also on the heels. The last one is probably the strangest as far as what we've seen the line do this week. USC, another road conference test. They passed with flying colors against Stanford. A late TD made that look a lot closer than it was. Last week went to Fresno State, and it was 21-10 at half, and then Jay Kanter unfortunately carted off, and that game got away very, very quickly. But this week they head to Corvallis to play Oregon State. Again, the line opened at 12.5, and I'm looking at it now, it's 5.5.
Yeah.
A lot of big money on Oregon State. Tickets seem to be siding with the Trojans, but the money seems to be on Oregon State. So that's always fun to see who comes out on top in that one. But I don't know. We've seen USC back-to-back weeks on the road, or excuse me, last week was at home, but we've seen them back-to-back weeks in a shorter number than maybe it should have been as a potential trap game, and they've passed both pretty easily. I mean, obviously, Haener being hurt changes the dynamic of that game. Haener got into a shootout with these same Oregon State Beavers, and they fell by a field goal. So I think we could see a lot of offense, but if it's a track meet, I'll take USC every day. I don't care where they play the game. I mean, it just comes down to talent at the end of the day. They may not come out firing. I mean, I took first half last week and it worked out. I'd hesitate to do that here just because of it is a road conference environment. Maybe it is a bit slower than even 21-10 as it was last week. But I mean, I think full game, it's at least Southern Cal by a touchdown. What are you thinking?
I'm with you on this. I don't get the line. I know it's a away game, conference game, but Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams. I mean, those are the two names that all I need to hear when I see -5.5 for a USC team. And then if you want to go with like a common team, they both played Fresno State this year already, and USC beat them 45-17 handedly, and Oregon State only beat them 35-32. No, there's no knock on Oregon State. They are improved. They're pretty good. I know that the fans will be pumping there, but I just can't fade Lincoln Riley, especially being a WVU Big 12 guy. Like, not a huge, obviously, like I had to root against him and stuff, but they're so high powered. Jordan Addison, Travis Dye. I just don't see, like you said, with a track meet, I don't see Oregon State keeping up with that type of offense. And if you're only giving me a spread that's within a touchdown, I don't see how I can't take that, even though all the money is saying otherwise. So I'm Trojans all over.
Yeah, they've topped 40 points on offense every game. They've yet to allow more than 28. I think Fresno State could dip into the 30s, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Trojans up in the 50s if that's what it takes. You mentioned Dye. He was one of two running backs with 100 yards last week. My big question last week was, show me the kid that's going to cover Jordan Addison for 3 hours, and the answer was no one. And so I think that may be a similar answer here. We've seen Oregon State 35 points on offense a game so far. It's pretty impressive. USC almost tops in the country at 50.7. So, I mean, scoring defense, USC at 19.7 points a game, Oregon State at 24.5. I don't think either one's faced an offense as good as they will Saturday. And obviously, the star power, the coaching, the talent, everything is with the Trojans. So, if it is a trap, great. But we've seen this 2 straight weeks, and they've dismissed it pretty quickly. back-to-back weeks. So if it is a trip up spot, then so be it. But I'm going to trust them until they give me a reason not to.